Hello everyone and welcome back to MixBuzz TV mixing and mastering tutorials on YouTube. I'm your host David, and as you know, if you've been following this series, I recently rebuilt the main studio computer, updated the DAW, and cleaned up the plugin closet, so to speak. So I took the chance to list for you guys some of my favorite plugins for this past 2017 and still going strong starting 2018. I'll show you my old favorites along with some tricks on what my main use is for them and what I like them for, and some of the new ones I either just got or still testing. In this video we'll look at reverbs, delays, pitch shifters, and modulation. So let's start with my favorite reverbs. Let me say up front, I'm not a reverb snob by any stretch of imagination, and that shows with my very first choice, which is the good old Pro Tools Reverb. What can I say? I know I should probably be ashamed to say this, but this is my reverb 80% of the time. I have at least 3 to 5 of these in my mixes, and I used pretty much only 3 algorithms on it. The Room 1, Room 2, and the Ambience. Small, medium, large, vary based on what I need, what I use it on, and what the mix calls for. But yeah, mostly on snares, toms, drum bass, occasionally background vocals. Let's say anything where I just need a reverb. That is not a featured effect, where the effect itself is not so exposed and never with long decay times. I don't use it on lead vocals, I don't use it on guitars often, although sometimes I might use some ambience on them, but I'm just so familiar with how it sounds and I process my reverbs so much, usually with EQ, compression and distortion, saturation, that this one for me, it's just the right base to start from. And by now I know very well how it reacts to my processing. Use it as is, without additional processing. I find it to be a good halfway between a reverb that blends in and one that you can actually hear at times. So yeah, Reverb is still my go-to for general purpose, short to medium reverbs. Next up is my favorite Convolution Reverb, which is, again, an old one, the Waves IR1. Now, while with convolution reverbs, it's true that the impulses are the important part, it's also true that every convolution reverb will handle them differently. And most important, each one will sound different given the same impulse. And again, this one for me it's familiar, so I know what it adds or takes away from the impulses, which are a big variable to begin with. There are so many of them and it's already hard for me to pick one every time I use a convolution reverb. I don't need to learn another behavior for a different convolution reverb for every single impulse. And this one not only sounds good to me, but it offers many onboard features to process the raw impulse, some of which are very unique, and keep this one still on top for me for features, ease of use, which is also important. Here we are seeing the full version. It also have a light component if you want to save CPU, but on this one we have all the functions available. One I really like is the convolution start slider. Very useful when you already have a defined ambience going on in your mix and you just want the tail of a given impulse. That's how I use it. You can basically move the impulse earlier and cut the early reflections without having any pre-delay. It also has the RT60 to shorten or lengthen the impulse, a full parametric EQ on board, the correlation slider, which is another thing I like, and the very useful reverse button to reverse the impulse, something many overlook on this one. I like convolution reverbs in general when I want real spaces and more high quality reverbs, opposed to the reverb basically. I use it on drum bass a lot, lead vocals, percussion, when I want real rooms and real ambience. Among my favorite impulse collection, the Bricasti M7 of course, some of the Lexicon M300 and the TC6000 collection for sure. Next one is a very special kind of reverb, the Uvi Spark Verb. Not only a very high quality reverb with the right amount of tweaking knobs, but a fantastic interface. This page here, when you can basically navigate the presets by type and sound, is the best interface for those who, like me, have a certain sound in their head when choosing reverbs, but it's kind of thrown off by having to adjust multiple settings, multiple knobs at the same time. This navigation panel here lets you go from one preset to another and blend so easily that you can just move the cursor and listen instead of tweaking. You see, when you move the cursor, it automatically changes all the parameters at once. Just genius. I wish every reverb had this. My main use for this one is special effect. Long shimmery reverbs, when the reverb itself is to be heard and part of the sound itself. There are many times in which I use it full wet. Great modulation is able to go bright without being splashy, especially on the tail. Spark Verb makes me think of really wide stereo image, perfect for EDM leads and overall big ambience type of reverbs. Next one, my favorite spring reverb, PSP Springbox. I wasn't using spring verbs almost at all in the past until I found this one. Secret tip, it's pretty damn amazing on vocals. Just watch the level of the signal going in. I prefer to keep it low and don't make it twang too much. Used in that way and with maximum diffusion and widespread is absolutely fantastic on vocals when you want to create depth and some sort of airy space behind the vocals. That blends pretty much seamlessly in the mix every time for me. Watch the level, watch the overall volume of the return. A little goes a long way because it blends so well that you will tend to rise the level more than you would at first. But if you pay attention, you can get away even with longer decay time than you would with a conventional reverb. Springs are great on guitars, as we all know, but this is kind of a secret weapon for vocals. Especially useful the mono to stereo modes for it. And also another way I like to use it is after delays. This one is definitely one of my top 3 to blend delay repeats into the mix. Because if you follow the channel, I usually don't like and very rarely use dry delays. This one can make a simple stock delay sound extremely lush and exciting and give it in a nice 3D space. Lastly, my favorite colored, I would say reverb, the Softtube TSAR. The GUI is deceiving as it might reminds you of the Lexicon Lark found in the 480 or 960, I think. But this reverb is not an emulation. It is actually a pretty modern, high-end sounding reverb. And very versatile too. I like it on vocals. I particularly like the density function. Because to me, when I change the density on this particular reverb, it does exactly what I personally expect to hear when manipulating a knob that says density. And this might sound obvious, but it's not. On other reverbs, I don't get that feeling when I tweak the density parameter. This one does, and I particularly like the lower settings, from sparse to a little more than low. It has few controls, not too tweaky, and sounds very lush to me. I love its color on rock drum, vocals. Usually use medium-sized reverbs, but it's cool all over. And it also comes with a light component. And believe it or not, this is really all I use for reverbs. Like I said, I tweak and process my reverb returns a lot, and that's how I shape my reverb sounds really, as opposed to spend time choosing between too many plugins. Occasionally I use my old Reverb 3 just for the kick, for really grainy verbs on drums. I like to clip its input with snares, and honorable mention go to, of course, the Valhalla collection. All absolutely amazing reverbs, and they are really cheap. And the FabFilter Pro R2, which I don't have, I tried it many times. It sounds great, but it's a bit too tweaky for me. I'm just not that good at tweaking reverb's parameter from inside the plugin itself. But Pro R is a very good reverb nonetheless. I even like the presets on it. Now, from reverbs to pitch shifters before going into delays. Pun intended. Few pitch shifters for me, but I use these very, very often. First one most used for vocals, since an effects return, would be Soundtoys Microshift. It was free when I got it. I don't know what sells for now, but it's worth it. It's got only 3 modes, but damn, this thing work. Right off the bat, 9 times out of 10. Not much to say about it. Works for lead as well as background vocals for me, for doubling effects. Mostly you will find it tucked in really low, fully wet in my mixes on vocals. And I often use it before or after a reverb or some ambience type of effect. Most of the times band passed, so with highs and lows filtered out. If you do this in parallel, always watch the phase, guys. Little Alter Boy from Soundtoys deserves a mention too here. For more obvious kinda old school effect on different things, I like it. One cool trick I can give you is to try the down pitch on electric guitars and snares. Fully wet in parallel. Works very well to add a certain growl to things, especially when turning the drive knob. Try it. Most pristine pitch shifter and arguably the best tuner is still Melodyne. I can't add anything to what it has already been said about this amazing processor. From vocal tuning to creating fake but realistic harmonies to turn audio into MIDI, this is hands down one of the most useful tools in your DAW. Also great for special effects. Celemony has very good videos on special tricks. Then there are many plugins that have a pitch shifter inside of a more complex matrix of effects. Since it's a pretty simple algorithm, you often see pitch shifter in plugins that offer general mangling and multi-effects. Like for example, one I recently discovered and I'm still testing, the Unfiltered Audio Spec Op. Glitcher, freezer, gator, pitcher. I'm still demoing this one, but so far I'm finding it to be one of the most inspiring new effects out there. Really cool. And I like how easy Unfiltered Audio makes the modulation connections in their plugins, all of them. The only other one I feel like mention is the Waves Sound Shifter for its simplicity and the different algorithms. Easy to automate for when you want obvious pitch effects like pitch delays or slow down effects. So yeah, for me this one is when I need to automate a simple pitch effect. This will be it. And now let's go into delays. As for reverbs and even more, I tweak my delays a lot, like really a lot. Pre and post processing, my delays are never the same. Every mix I have at least 4 or 5 totally custom delays, whether they are throws or they are up all the time. EQ, reverb, saturation, full-blown distortion, gators, pedals. I do all kind of things to my delays. But these plugins are where I start. So H delay and mod delay 3 are the most used. When I need just a starting point, easy to set up, these are my blank canvas, so to speak, for me to then add all the other effects on top of them. Not much to say about these two workhorse delays. My special effect delay is the UVI relayer, for which I did a preset collection, as you probably know, and you get it with the plugin for free. So this one is one-stop shop delay, really. It has it all, from internal effects, modulation, with 2 tabs, with several algorithms each. It has onboard reverbs, which sounds great, by the way, to filters, to different types of saturation for the feedback, tube, tape, and also the auto ducking function, very useful for sidechaining the dry signal to the delay without external buzzing. But the real strength of this delay is the possibility of tailoring its repetition in detail, each and every one, including level, panning, and time. It has an insane level of tweakability for each repetition, but for some reason, while I don't like too tweakable plugins, as you know, this one is very easy. I don't know, maybe because of the GUI. You can use it as is right off the bat, but I use this one most when I want to sit down and make the main delay, the one that is featured the most exposed one in the mix. So I actually like to spend some time on it. I'm on the one I'm testing right now. Again, I'm liking the unfiltered instant delay, just because it's super easy to modulate, clear GUI, and very functional. Check it out, it's not just another delay. The modulations are very good. Next, the Waves Jade 37, it's a great choice for real tape delay emulation. I do like the IK Multimedia too. I wish I could try the UAD ones, because I heard some of them and they are pretty great. But this one, the J37, does it for me. It has several colors available, all more or less subtle, which is good for me. Wow and flutter, which is mostly what I look for in a tape delay, and filters. Also the possibility to increase saturation independently from the input and output level is something I like. Sounds really nice. Tape delay would be my favorite for rock vocals, especially short, slapback effects, mostly in dual mono with different colors for left and right. But I also use them for long big throws, not only for vocals but piano and synths too. Then 2 more special effect delays, both from Valhalla. One is free, the Freak AQ. I use this one for really weird effects. I love it so much, usually 100% wet, tucked in under some synth or vocals or even guitars. The key with this one is to automate. Try automating both the delay knob and the shift knob. You will get really weird, cool effects. You can let it just sit there, but if you automate, that's where the money is. and still from Valhalla, the Uber mod. A mix between delay and chorus and pitch shifter. This one is one of my favorites to stereoize material. Again, synths, vocals, it's very deep and I don't have complete control over it. So I usually start with a preset and tweak it from there. But I find it to be a really good stereo tool and not in a conventional way. It can both enhance stereo tracks like background vocals, pianos, synths, but is also a very good stereoizer for mono tracks. It does it with a combination of processes that to reproduce you'd need to open more than one plugins, and the results with this are great, kind of an unusual sounding, I like it. Lastly, for variety and fun, I use also pedals, and I mean the ones you find in guitar simulations like this one, Amplitude. There are some cool ones. But that's a wrap. This is it for this video. I hope you liked it and I hope it was useful. If you liked the video, please don't forget to click the like button. If you have any question, leave your comment down below or post on the new community page here on YouTube. That's the best place for you to post your questions, to which I will answer in vlogs and Q&As. And let me know which are your favorite reverbs, delays, and modulation effects. Stay tuned for the next episode. It's gonna be saturators and special effects. Join us on Facebook and Twitter and get all the news about the channel, upcoming videos and series, and access to exclusive content. Please keep supporting MixBuzzTV by visiting the store, sharing the videos, and spreading the word on blogs, forums, social media. Subscribe, click the bell icon if you haven't already, and see you next time.